do 347. Here, I'll just trade you. You can have this one back.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The largest sandwich in the world was made in Palm Springs, California.
Okay, so I see this sandwich. It's about this big, and it's in Palm Springs, California,
Okay, and how do you know it's in Palm Springs?
because the story said it.
Okay, but when you think about
That's exactly what they're going to say.
when you think, have you ever been to California?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so when you think about California, do you have any kind of pictures you think about?
No.
No? Okay. So when we go to a new place, what was I gonna say?
One good thing, like you'd say, you've been on vacation. Have you driven there? Have you?
Okay.
Yeah. How
So
do you know
have you
where
been
you're
on
going?
vacation before?
Yes.
Have you gone on vacation?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, did you drive? Did you fly?
Both.
Both. Okay, so when you were driving, and did you go to a different state?
And you could say driving or flying, because like they might say, I could see on my plane ticket where I was going. Oh, there we go. There's a good sign. It doesn't matter whichever route you take. You're just trying to get to a sign.
Okay.
So, yeah. I've driven to other states. Well, I've ridden.
Okay, so when you were riding to this other state, when you got into the other state, did you see anything that let you know that's where you were?
No.
Or another state? No, you
No.
didn't? Oh my goodness, how did you know?
I don't pay any attention. I sit in the back seat.
Oh, okay.
I'm on my computer.
So,
So now it's time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this it would be a blank sheet,
Right.
or maybe a sheet with some of the stuff on it. Instead of saying I'd draw a picture, you'd say something like, well, here's a good way.
Okay.
So I just drove to Florida last week. And I remember driving through Tennessee, and I saw the sign that said, they might have never seen it and still come up with the answer to your question. They might never come up. They might just feel obstinate and have an answer but not tell you. It's all the same. You still just work your way around to, okay, well, here's a good way we could picture it. Or
Okay.
I took a plane trip the other day, and when you took a plane trip, did you see the ticket? Yeah? Did it have another? Yeah. No? Well, my ticket had this. So,
Okay.
just
so
like that. And then you,
kind of connecting in there.
you start drawing it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So now I've got a sign. So I made a sign that says, welcome to,
Palm Springs.
yeah, it says, welcome to Palm Springs. What else would you want to add?
For that particular one, or do you want?
Yeah, there's some things about that you
Okay,
would want.
so for so it says welcome to Palm Springs, so we have to write it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you write Palm Springs on the table for me and say the letters when you do it?
Sure. POMSPRINGS.
So you wrote Palm Springs. Is that okay? Okay.
Unless
Sure.
I'm reading it, that's fine.
All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah. And then, what else would you want to ask me about that?
About Palm Springs?
About what I've done so far. There's two things that you want to get nailed down when a kid makes a sign.
Oh, what it looks like? Okay,
And
so
where is it?
Okay.
Because so far there's nothing. I've got a sandwich. If my student was telling me this picture, all I would really have in my head is a sandwich, because he hasn't said what California looks like or what Palm Springs looks like or anything. And so that's another good trick, is to try to just put the things in your picture that they're saying.
Okay.
So you can just see, okay, I need some background information, I need this stuff.
Okay.
So when you ask me where my sign is, I'm going to say, okay, it's on the left.
It's on the left. The left of
Exactly. What? And that's when you go through all the cards, you get all the background and everything.
Okay.
And then, depending on the kid, you might ask what's the sign made of,
Color.
the color of the letters and stuff. Now, after a kid's been here for a little while, you're not going to have to go through all that every time. But at the beginning.
Okay. It's like the first couple of times that
Right.
they're having a problem.
And another thing about a story like this is you could also, on that sign, put palm trees or springs, things like that.
Okay.
And we've also got California to deal with. So a lot of people know what the shape of the state looks like, and they can put that on there so they don't have to make a sign. That's half sign, half map, so you might have to talk about that, if that helps. And after a while, you just start to know what questions you're going to ask because you're always ask the same ones. Um, but if you can avoid writing California, if you can just put a picture of the state on there, great, because that's going to be much easier to remember than the words.
Right.
The words with the little pictures of the palm tree and the springs is going to be easier to remember than just the words. Usually the kid will come up with the palm trees and stuff by themselves without the words, and you got to get them to add the words to that. I probably wouldn't get them to add the other things unless it was a kid that I knew had a lot of trouble with signs.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. And then I don't know.
Do you ask them at that point, like, what a spring is? No.
If the story, if it was integral to the story, if you had to know what a spring was in order to understand the story, yeah. But this is just the name of a place. That's why if you put springs like Boing Boing Springs, that's fine, because that's to remember the word springs.
So, yeah, so that was my second question is, what if it sounds like something else than what it is? Like, you wrote pom, like a pom-pom,
Right.
P-O-M. Is that okay to
Ooh,
pick?
that's a rough one.
Or do you need to get them back to the palm
I think,
tree?
yeah, in that situation, I might actually say, okay, the word is supposed to be pronounced palm, and then have them respell it. Because you don't want them to, flat out memorize the wrong pronunciation of something. If he's spelling it P-O-M, because he's a little kid and he's going to say Palm Springs no matter what, that's fine. But I feel like if you were going to add pictures and stuff to that, that might be too much. But once again, that's totally depending on the student and the situation. And
Okay.
usually you don't want to get busy with that sort of thing because that's not really what you're teaching. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a tough one.
This is for younger and more severe, not necessarily an older kid.
Right. An older kid would just know that stuff. They would know how to spell palm or whatever. But they would still have to make a sign unless they've been there before. And then you have to deal with the largest sandwich in the world. I saw a big sandwich that didn't like the largest sandwich in the world to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it didn't look very good.
Yeah. And they might even picture a really big sandwich. And you go, is that the largest sandwich in the world? Because if you get a kid who doesn't picture this massive, ridiculous sandwich, they're doing their summary, they will not say the largest sandwich in the world. Because by the time they get up to that level, they're using their pictures and they're pulling all the information out of their pictures. And if that ain't the largest sandwich in the world to them, they're not going to have that. So you would have to get busy with that too. And then where are they and all that stuff.
Here's what I want to do from here. This is some of the best footage I've been able to capture in a while because usually I'm the VV guy and I can't film and so I'd like for you to take us home. Meaning, I've got 30 more minutes in this segment. So if you don't mind, let's do one more round robin. Let's try to get another 30 more minutes of good video. Your air handling, your thinking is just spectacular. So
All right. Well, you can just read the next.
Would you mind clapping your hands real quick so I can go to that spot? Thank you.
We can just do the next sentence if you want.
This one?
It would start with police.
Americans use? Oh, the next one's
Yeah.
using this. Okay. All right. Police stopped traffic for 1 block while the sandwich was made.
So, most of the time, after you read that sentence, you're going to see a confused look, and then you're going to see police and traffic, but they're not going to know what a block is. And so you're going to have to, that's going to be a vocab issue. You're going to have to explain a city block from the sky, the entire block, and the distance a block and how it's relative and all that. And then you'll have to talk to him about how you're going to see blocking traffic for a block, because almost every time they'll have one policeman blocking traffic. But they're not getting the picture of, okay, this thing is being made outside, they're making it on the street, they have to stop traffic from both sides in order to make this, to keep the cars out.
So as you explain it, that would be a super simple thing to draw. Can you draw that to explain the block, or do you really want to just explain it and have them draw their own picture?
I always draw out the block,
Okay.
because they don't understand. I've tried to explain it, and until you draw it, they just don't seem to get it. Because you can say from one stop sign to another.
Yeah.
But then the first thing they'll say is, well, like some stop signs in my neighborhood are, a mile long, and then, so you really just have to draw it out.
Okay.
And then I scribble it out after I draw it so they can't see it. So I'm going to use the one in their head
Okay.
rather than that one.
All right. So do you want me to,
Yeah, there
Go
was really
from
nothing.
there,
that was-
or-
Yeah, just go ahead and read the next sentence.
the next sentence? It was sold for $2 an inch, and the money was given to the local hospital.
Okay.
How can you picture that?
Okay. So I see them. Let me see. What would a kid do? I see this guy, and he cuts off an inch and he sticks it on a plate, and this other person buys it, and they take the money to the hospital.
Okay, it's a good place to start. So I can see that the person is cutting it off. How are you gonna know that's 2 inches?
It's an inch.
Oh, sorry. It's $2. Sorry. How are you gonna know that that's 1 inch?
Well, I can see it. It's an inch.
How big is an inch?
Yeah, it's like that big.
Oh goodness, an inch. Let's look at a ruler. But an inch is really only about that big. So let's put that in our picture to where he's only cutting off 1 inch. How are we going to remember that?
Okay, I just see it's that big.
You just see it's that big. What do you know of? Do you have a body part? Do you have something to compare it to? Can you tell me something else that's about an inch?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So,
Uh-huh.
can we grab this an inch?
Nope, you're going to take the blank piece of paper.
Oh, you're going to draw. Okay. So I'm gonna
Because that's
draw.
where this comes in.
Okay.
Because you don't want to, I mean, you can show him what an inch is or whatever. Is he going to remember that for the rest of his life or anything?
I don't know.
No, you want to give him a relative, an
Okay.
inch is about this big, but how are we going to remember
All right.
the fact that it's an inch? That's when this comes in.
All right. So let's draw a picture of something that shows inches.
Yeah.
And how
What
about
do I know of?
What do
that
you know
shows
of
it?
that
Yeah,
shows
or
an
have you
inch?
ever had to measure anything?
Yeah.
And I might say, yeah, my dad made a football field in our backyard. He had this chalk thing, and he used it to
that's-
measure.
That's for measuring giant spaces.
Right.
Can you think of anything that
Well, actually, what you
use
say
to
is
measure?
yes.
Oh.
That's a great way to measure distance. Let's draw that on here. And I'd draw a little stick man with that thing. And I'd say, now, how are we going to picture a shorter distance?
Okay.
Have you ever had to measure something that was shorter, like something that was like this big? Then he might say, oh, yeah, with a ruler.
Okay.
Probably would say that.
All right.
So, yeah, he came up with a way to measure, right? That's great,
Yeah.
So we definitely want to use that. But then we want to go to the smaller distances. And plus, you just cleared up a lot of work because now you don't have to talk about how you're going to measure those big distances.
Okay.
Because he already figured
He's
that
already
out.
got something. Okay.
He's a
Perfect.
genius.
Okay. He is smart. Wow. All right. So you can kind of show him where the inch, or he can draw the inch.
No,
or
you draw everything.
I draw the.
You will draw the ruler,
Uh-huh.
right? And then after the story, if he hadn't come up with something, you might draw a tape measure in case it's longer. You might talk about how you can take that little ruler and stretch it to 12 miles if he wants to. Just various. He might come up with something of his own.
Okay.
In which case, you draw that on there. But you would just talk about different ways to.
Okay. And so we just say, so that ruler's going to be in your picture, or does he say
He is going to have to
that?
pull
He's
that
gonna
ruler
draw
out.
it.
He's gonna do it himself.
Okay.
Would be best, but he's already seen somebody else doing it, so that somebody else is gonna take the ruler, and you'll have to question him up to this.
Okay.
Put it on there and slice off 1 inch where it says an inch.
So you're going to slice off, so the people in the picture are going to slice off 1 inch of the sandwich. How can we show that they're going to sell it for $2?
There you go. So usually the kids they'll just say, I see him give him $2, or he hands him the credit card. If he hands him the credit card, great. How will we see how much you paid when you use a credit card? They might have a cash register, they might have the receipt, that's all fine.
Okay.
They have no idea, they might just have everybody pull out $2, to hand it to them. Any of those things will work.
Okay.
But it's only the inch that's on here, so.
And then the last part says the money was given to the local hospital. How can you put in your picture that the money that all the money that they had was given to the local hospital?
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you, here's what they usually do. Okay, they take that jar of money, right, and they go, there's an ambulance over there, and they give it to the ambulance driver. The ambulance driver gets to the ambulance, and he drives and drives and drives and drives and drives and drives and drives, and about 12 miles away, there's a hospital, and he just sets the money there.
Well.
That's you'll get on your face. I think.
Okay.
I would just say nice.
Okay. It's
Good
getting
job.
there. It's like I'm thinking that's okay.
In his head, the next day, he's not going to drive miles and miles and miles and miles. He's going to go to sleep, and his brain is going to churn and throw away a lot of those useless pictures.
Okay.
So the next day when he comes in, he's going to say, when you review it, I see them take the jar, they give it to an ambulance, the ambulance gets it to the hospital.
Okay. So do we even ask them, you know, when you're visualizing, when you're seeing the hospital, how do you know it's a hospital? What does the hospital look like, or do you just let it go?
Once again, it depends on the student, but
Okay.
yeah, if he's a little kid, you know,
What's a hospital look
what's
like?
the hospital look like?
Okay.
And he'll see a building. He might have been to an emergency room, that's perfect. If not, he might have to write hospital. But usually people picture, some even kids picture a building and they just sort of know it's a hospital. So even if you have him write hospital on there, I wouldn't get busy about what are the letters because he's probably just going to know that's a hospital.
Okay.
I always picture general hospital from
Yeah.
the, beginning of that show.
Yeah.
Picture of the hospital.
Oh.
Hopefully children aren't going to do that.
It's a hospital.
I always picture a red car.
Okay. Okay.